We are going to do 4.4, and we are completing the square. I'm going to go through all of the different steps, and there's really just one more thing you need to learn that you don't already know. If I had x squared minus 8x plus c, what number goes there to complete the square? 16. And how do you get 16? We cut the 8 in half, and then x minus 4 times x minus 4 will give us x squared, 2 copies of negative 4x, which turns into negative 8x. That's not your seat. No, you're fine. And then negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. You're here. Awesome. I was so worried you'd disappeared. So the answer is C equals 16. Okay. What if the middle number is odd? The factor would be 5 over 2, and the perfect square is 5 times 5 divided by 2 times 2, which is 25 over 4. Does that make sense? Okay. What if it's a fraction? There are 2 ways to divide a fraction by 2. The first one is cut the top in half, which is what we're going to do here. X minus 3/5. And then 3 times 3 divided by 5 times 5 is 9 over 25. Okay. What if you can't cut the top in half? So in this case, we don't want to write 3.5 over 4, so instead we double the bottom. And I get x minus 7 over 8, and c is going to be 49 over 64. Okay. Now we can use completing the square to solve problems. Say I had x squared minus 16x plus 15 equals 0. 15 is the wrong number, so I need to move it and get it out of the way. I'm going to subtract 15 to the other side. X squared minus 16x, leave a space, equals negative 15. Good. Cut the 16 in half. And negative 8 times negative 8 is plus 64. So over here I add 64. Negative 15 plus 64 is 49. Now what? Take the square root. X minus 8 is equal to plus or minus. Good, don't forget that. If you square root an x to the second, you need a plus or minus. Plus or minus 7. Now what? Add the 8. So the answers are 8 plus 7, which is 15. 8 minus 7, which is 1. Could I have factored that? Look up there. Are there factors of 15 that add to be negative 16? Negative 1 and negative 15. So sometimes factoring works, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes completing the square is your only option. Well, there's another option. We'll get to that later. All right. If I had x squared minus 5x minus 8, does that factor? Can we find factors of 8 that add to be 5? No. So this one we have to use completing the square. I'm going to set it equal to 0 and move the 8 to the other side. X squared minus 5x, leave a space, equals 8. What goes in the factor? 5 over 2 to the second. What's the number I'm missing? 25 fourths. So over here I'm going to add 25 fourths. I don't know what 8 plus 25 fourths is in my head. I just turn my calculator on. And 8 plus 25 over 4. How do I make that a fraction? Math, which is right under the green button. And the first one says triangle fraction. And I get plus or minus 57 over 4. Is everybody okay with that? All right. Now I take the square root. Does 57 square root? No, but 3 goes into it. 57 divided by 3 is 19. Can I take anything out? Nope. But I also have to square root the 4. So I end up with x minus 5 over 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 57 over 2. Okay. Now I add the 5 over 2. So plus 5 over 2. And they're both over 2. So I'm just going to do that. And that's the answer. Oops. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. What if I had, let's do this one. I've got a good one in the example. All right, 2x squared plus 20x minus 8. What should I do first? Or add the 8. 2x squared plus 20x, leave a space, equals 8. Now, we have a problem. The 2. In fact, you cannot complete the square if this number is not a 1. Actually, that's kind of a lie. You can, but it's really hard to do, and I'm not going to teach you how to do it because there are easier ways to solve these. So if this number is anything other than a 1, you have to divide it out. If it doesn't divide out, then you don't want to complete the square. Does the 2 divide out? Does it go into everything? Do I have to divide the 8 by 2 also? Yes, everything. If I cut the left side in half, it weighs half as much, so the scale is going to tilt. So we have to cut the other end in half, and then it will be balanced. Okay, so I'm going to divide everything by 2, and I get x squared plus 10x, leave a space, equals 4. And again, if that 2 does not divide out, you cannot complete the square. We'll have to learn another method to solve. All right, what's my factor? X plus 5 squared. So this would be 25, and this would be 25, and I end up with 29. Take the square root. X plus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 29, and I subtract that 5 over. Does 29 simplify? 25 is prime. It doesn't have any factors, so that's it. And the book sometimes asks for the decimal answer. How do I find the decimal answer? You would just type in -5 plus the square root of 29 and -5 minus the square root of 29, and you'll get the 2 decimals. All right. 3x squared minus 9x plus 4 equals, oh, we better do minus 4. Minus 4 equals 8. Can I divide out the 3? Not yet. But I still have to move the 4 to the other side. And then hopefully I can divide out the 3. If not, I can't solve this. I add 4 to both sides. And I end up with 3x squared minus 9x, leave a space, equals 12. Now can I pull out a 3? Yes. So this is solvable. Divide everything by 3. X squared minus 3x, leave a space, equals 4. What goes in the factor? 3 over 2 squared. So what's the missing number? 9 over 4. I add 9 over 4 to both sides. In my calculator, I type in 4 plus 9 over 4. And then do math fraction. 25 over 4. Now what? Square root. X minus 3 over 2 is equal to plus or minus 5 over 4. That's pretty crazy. I just made this up and it worked. Now I add the 3 halves over. And we can do this in our head. They're both divided by 2. So what is 3 plus 5 divided by 2? 3 plus 5 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So x equals 4. And then 3 minus 5 is negative 2, divided by 2 is negative 1. My answers are 4 and negative 1. That was a good guess, huh? All right, let's try that again. Actually, I probably want plus 62. All right, hold on a second. This is going to be 88. Yep. Can I divide out the 5? Not yet. So hopefully when I move that 62 to the other side, I will be able to divide it out. So I subtract 62, and I get negative 5x squared plus 100x, leave a space, equals negative 150. Now can I divide out the 5? But I actually want to divide by negative 5, because if I divide by 5, this number is going to end up being negative 1. And the only way I can complete the square is if that number is a positive 1. Divide everything by negative 5, and I'll get x squared. What happens to the 100? Not 50. Negative 20. Leave a space. What is negative 150 divided by 5? 30. Positive 30. All right. X minus 10 to the second. What's the missing number? 10 times 10 would give me 100. So this is equal to 130. Take the square root. X minus 10 equals, is equal to plus or minus the square root of 130. Let's see if there are any numbers we can take out of that. 130 divided by 2 is 65. Divided by 5 is 13. So 130 is 1, 2, 1, 5, and 113. Can I bring anything out? Nope, I don't have any pairs. So it just stays the square root of 130. And then I add 10. 10 plus or minus the square root of 130. And if you want the decimals, you can just type it in. 10 plus the square root of 130 is 21.4. And then 10 minus the square root of 130 is negative 1.4. Okay? So the assignment for 4.4 was (5 to 22 all) and 24 through 36 all.